Welcome to Fresh Catholic, a podcast for those who are converting, reverting, or simply want a fresh perspective of the Catholic faith to help them to open their hearts and minds to become closer to the love and goodness of Christ. My daily prayer is that I will be a bright light to others, to be filled with the love and light of Christ, so that when people look at me, they see Him radiating out from me for His glory. Hello and welcome. I'm Lori Balderas, and I'm so happy you're here. I have a returning guest today, Jose Pulido. He is a former atheist and Yale MBA graduate who became a pioneer in teaching super effective evangelization skills after a mystical encounter with the Holy Family. His methods combine modern research with the timeless wisdom of sacred tradition. He is also a senior advisor at Omnia Catholic, a social media ministry aimed at supporting young adult ministries. He is a frequent presenter at the University Series in the Los Angeles area, a series that is aimed at supporting faith formation for adult Catholics. He is also a member of Fruitful Futures Project, a nonprofit dedicated to helping others find fruitfulness in their callings. He was a guest on this podcast back in March of 2025, episode number 114, to promote his book, How to Evangelize Anyone. Please go back and have a listen to that episode and order his book. There are links in the show notes. He's here today to talk about supporting parish and ministry teams and how to develop and maintain healthy and supportive relationships. I think you will have a lot of enjoyment from my conversation with Jose Pulido. Well, hello, Jose.
Hello, Lori.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me again.
Feels like you were just sitting here like yesterday, but you weren't.
Exactly. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'd love for us to reconnect. It was just such a natural and fun podcast last time.
It was. You were here to promote your book.
Exactly. And it's still going. We hit the threshold for bestseller 4 times over.
Wow. All because of being on Fresh Catholic.
Yeah, exactly. Quite literally. Thank you so much. It's just, if you're an author, contact Lori. That's what you got to do.
That's right. Or anybody. I'm easy. I'm an easy sell. I do want to say that we're going to put another link in our show notes for your book. I highly recommend his book, How to Evangelize Anyone. Mm-hmm. And it's a nice, simple little book where you can carry it around with you. You don't have to lug it around. It easily fits into your pocketbook, in your backpack, and you can order them for all your friends. The holidays are coming up. It would be a great gift for somebody, good stocking stuffer.
It really is. And it's designed for the busy Catholic.
Yes.
Like, if you only have time for 5 pages a day, you will find practical advice for evangelization that will help it be life-giving for you.
Yes. So it's a very, very valuable book, and I really enjoyed it. So you're back, and in all honesty, you were really coming to talk about something else, but we're going to put that on the back shelf. We're going to keep that a secret. We don't like to give away everything here.
Exactly.
We like to keep everybody, wondering, wishing and wondering what on earth is going on over there at Fresh Catholic.
Exactly.
Okay. So you're here. It's interesting because my last week episode was called Rally Summer because I talked about when things don't go your way, you got to rally.
Yes.
So that's what we're doing today.
And thank you for being so flexible. Like, in ministry, it's so important. It's like, wow, it seems like the Lord is willing for things to go in a different direction. And that's why I love working with you and Simon. And, that's one of the reasons why I love working in ministry. You get to discuss topics like patience and flexibility and hope, and kindness. And, at least that's one of the reasons why I work in ministry, right?
Right.
And it doesn't always pan out that way.
Right.
And that's okay in a certain sense because we still got the same general goal.
Yes. And I do think, I was just having a conversation with somebody today because I am a wedding coordinator. And I had a wedding last weekend, and I was telling my friend, I said, before the wedding, everything that not could go wrong, but there was a lot of challenges I was being met with. And I even came home and said to Simon, I mean, all of the most challenging things that could be happening in this wedding are happening. And it was interesting because the bride and groom really, I don't want to say they couldn't care less, but they were just, that wasn't really what they were focused on. They were so focused on just their love and the fact they were getting married, and they were so happy to be getting married. All that didn't affect their day. Granted, they didn't know all the stuff I was dealing with, but I just looked at them getting married and thought, that's what it's all about. Is I feel like a lot of Catholics, in my opinion, tend to put God first, tend to put the important things first. And I think in secular marriages or secular weddings, they're so concerned about things that aren't important in the long run. These two people want to get married. It's a sacrament. They're there in front. I said to my friend, I go, I mean, Jesus is hanging on the cross right behind them in this wedding. And I think they're thinking, let's not complain.
Yeah.
Let's just be happy and get married. But I do think that, just in our world, there's a lot of things that we're met with, a lot of challenges, a lot of things that we have to deal with, and how do we deal with them, and how are we going to bounce back? So that's where the rallying comes from. So I appreciate that today we rallied.
Yeah,
Here we are. We're going to switch topics a little bit. And so I think that's great. So you're here now to talk about ministries and things about that. So you tell me, what do you want to talk about? And then let's have a conversation about it.
Absolutely. The topic of ministry and, let's say, parish staff life, something that keeps on coming time and time again as I talk with pastors or senior leaders, even senior volunteers, is, we're expecting one thing and we get another. We're expecting, all of us are in it for faith, hope, and love. All of us are in it for virtue, and then sometimes the team dynamic doesn't pan out that way. And it's like, what do we do? And I want to highlight some things that even in a tumultuous dynamic, why there is a lot of reason to hope, and also what can we do about it, right?
Great.
The main reason I want to highlight that there's reason to hope even when there's a tumultuous dynamic is I have found an incredible level of commitment to the parish from basically staff across even decades. Pastors and senior leaders tend to be very reticent to fire employees. And from my perspective, that's a message we need to share with, people we love who are in secular settings. The reason for that is in a lot of secular environments, employees are seen as, human capital. Like, you are someone who is defined by the output they produce.
Right.
That said, at a parish, or let's say a Catholic school, it's more like you're someone who's defined by your human dignity.
Right.
Like, regardless of what sort of tumultuous dynamic we are in. And even though that tumultuous dynamic can be very difficult, at the very least, there is this idea of the parish is committed to the employee and the employee is committed to the parish. And with that, you can have the potential for a lot of honest conversations. And you can also have the potential to be a beacon of commitment to your community, to the world. Hey, we really care about Lori. We really care about Jose. We really care about Simon. So again, nobody likes being in a tumultuous dynamic. And, if you're in one, and if you're in a terrible one, yes, your feelings are valid. It's awful, right? That said, it's part of why that dynamic exists is because the parish really does believe in the dignity of every human person, including staff. That's very unusual in, work culture in the United States. So I'll pause there. Do you have any reactions to that, Lori?
Well, I think one thing that when we talked briefly before we started here, I'm on a church staff. So some of my listeners might not know that, but I work at our parish and I'm the wedding coordinator there. And I'm not there like all the time. Like I have my own hours. I set my own hours because of the type of job I'm in. I don't need to be there 9 to 5. I need to be there when I'm working on, a wedding coming up.
Working on one.
And so I am not a part of the all day, every day, like the rest of the staff. They spend more time with each other. I'm kind of in and out. And I know when I got the job, Simon was very concerned for me because I was very fresh Catholic. I had just come into the church like 4 years prior. Oh, wow. And I was, just deeply, deeply in love with the church and the faith. And
you dove right in.
I loved it so much. And then I got this opportunity to be the wedding coordinator. And Simon was like, I don't know, I'm worried because I'm afraid that you're going to see like the underbelly of things going on behind the scenes and it's going to hurt you. It's going to break your heart I remember that because I thought, oh gosh, I hope not. And he was very concerned for me. And so I think I went into it, cautious, but not like with that stuck in my head that, oh, this is just doomed to fail and I'm not going to like it. And for the most part, like in the beginning, I do know that I really loved working there as far as like I stayed out of any drama and trauma. I just kind of like kept in my own lane. And I just thought if people have an issue with each other, I don't really want to get involved in it because I'm not involved. So
that's a good general policy, by the way.
Yeah. Like, why would I get involved? I was kind of just trying to be there for everybody and not be disingenuous, not by like, hey, you're great, but didn't think so. And then, I wasn't doing that, but it's like, I didn't want to get involved in all that because I was just trying to stay focused on my job and the positives of it all. And over the years, it's had some ups and downs, and I have unfortunately gotten involved in some of the drama and the trauma, and it has affected me and it has made me sad. But ultimately, my love is for Christ.
It's for Christ.
And my focus is on my faith.
Yeah.
And my job is to make the couples feel happy and confident with getting married at the church and doing my part to make that happen. And so that's my main focus. And I do have, for the most part, it's like, I love working at the church. I love the staff. I love my job. And when there is a problem or an issue, I pray about it. I talk to Simon about it. I have, I don't want to call it a spiritual director, but I have somebody that I can discuss it with, and I feel supported. Yeah. So all that has worked out, but that is kind of a part. And I would say like in any job, it's kind of hard because you're dealing with a lot of different personalities.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree with you that having a job in the secular world is remarkably different than having it in the church. Yeah. And I think we also, I'll just speak for myself. I also don't want to handle things in a bad way because I'm there for the Lord. I'm there. My job, that's one of the beautiful parts of working at a church is that, like I've said this on the podcast before, I love it that I can pray at my job.
Yeah.
I love it that we can all pray as a group at my job.
We can all pray. I
love that we can all talk about our love of the Lord and our goals for service and our goals for the success. And I don't mean like monetary success. I mean the success of the parish.
Like the impact on couples you shepherd. Right?
Yes. Or just in general,
families.
like the families, and like we want to make our parishioners feel happy and safe and all those things. So I loved that about having this job.
Exactly. And that's extremely exciting. Yet there's a ton of, young people, let's say Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and they're wondering, where can I find meaning? Where can I find community? Where can I find connection? And what Lori's saying is a common theme when I talk with parish staff, even all over the country. Like, family is important to basically every parish staff member I've ever talked to. The Lord, like authentic connection with God, neighbor, and even connection with your own self. Like, those are themes that come time and time again. Prayer. You know, one of the most common complaints I get from parish staff is I wish I could pray more with my colleagues.
Oh,
You know, and it's such a beautiful complaint because it's like, you know, like, oh, you know, how do I bring it up? Like, you know, praying before the staff meeting or, you know, whatever. And it's like, so a lot of it is, you know, regardless of where the team dynamic is at, you know, whether you're stressed out during the peak of Lent, right? Or the peak of Advent, or, you know, you're everyone's thriving, right? Just like a huge caseload, for example, or maybe there's like some miscommunication, right? You can always rely on the fact that you're all committed to the mission of the kingdom.
right.
And that's very thrilling,
Yes.
you know? And like everyone really, I know like, wow, Jose must be speaking in hyperbole. I've talked to parish staff all over the United States, and I can confidently say that people who work for parishes really care about people.
Yes, I agree.
Like really,
Or they should.
or they should. But and I mean, I'm sure there's people that don't, or maybe I've just met really good liars. I mean, I guess that's an option. There's really two reasons why people work at a parish. They love God. They love neighbor. You know, and I guess C is all the above. You know,
Right.
and that again, this is so important to share with, you know, people that are maybe wondering like, can I ever be part of a community that loves me for me?
Right.
And I'm here to tell you, like, yes, like there's imperfection and we are human vessels, and you might hear about certain, you know, disgruntlement or miscommunication or poor dynamics, right? Just time and time again, you can come to the parish. And in a sense, because you can see throughout the life of the team, you know, over the decades, you know, maybe there's a rough patch of a couple of years or so, right? It's like to have an authentic relationship within a team that is basically committed to working together over decades.
Yes.
Those rough patches are going to come up. It's safe enough to have those rough patches. And that's why I'm here to tell you, like, there are environments for you to be authentically welcomed, for you to authentically work out a team dynamic. And it's, in a certain sense, it's very beautiful from my perspective.
Well, and I feel like, at least in our staff, I feel like we are a family. Like we have a very, I would say, a family dynamic. You know, I feel like I get the sense that we all love each other. I get the sense that some of us have some little issues with each other, but that's typical when you're a group of humans. I do, you know, I do believe that we all are there for a good reason. I'm wondering though, what do you ever find where there's a staff and they're the bulk of everybody, you get this really great sense, and yes, everybody's there to build the kingdom, and yes, everybody's there for the right reasons, and they want to help others, and you know, they're not getting that out in the secular jobs, so it's like they're working in a parish, and it's like the ultimate, you know, goal. Or I don't want to keep using like success, because I equate that with like monetary things, but so moving forward in this conversation, when I say success, I'm meaning like that the parish is thriving and people are happy and they're getting married and they're having babies and they're, you know, receiving their sacraments and they're being fulfilled and filled up by the Lord. Okay?
Like it's a life-giving parish.
Right. So if you have a staff and you feel like somebody isn't really doing those things, like it's kind of like, what if there's a person that's maybe like a bad apple in the barrel?
Oh, what if there's like a bad apple in the barrel? Yeah, there's like a few things worth looking at, you know? One, it's entirely possible that maybe just people got off on the wrong foot, you know? scientifically.
What if the shoe's been on the foot for a long time and it's getting a little stinky?
That's totally possible too. Yeah, like what if, yeah. What if we got off on the wrong foot, 10 years ago? Yeah. Right? I mean, the most important thing to have aligned is the goal.
Mm-hmm.
So if the goal is we're all going to glorify the Lord, we're all going to build the kingdom, and Lori's part is excellent facilitation of the sacrament of matrimony, right? And she knows what she has to do there, and then the director of religious education knows, okay, my role is OCIA, might have to coordinate with Lori in case, one half of the couple needs to be, skilled up in the faith, right? Like, people know the roles, they know the mission, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's say there's just like a bad feeling, between Lori and the other person. By the way, I don't actually know.
No.
We haven't talked about.
Wow.
I just made up a situation that I think is plausible, given like roles that I know in the general Catholic, American Catholic Church,
Right.
Let's say there's just like a bad feeling, and that affects everything, I find oftentimes just learning the basics of effective communication skills goes a long way. Because again, fundamentally, why do people work at a parish? They love God, they love neighbor, it's like, and there's might even be just a lot of like confusion, even like, hey, I thought I'm working in this parish because we all care about virtue, and yet I'm not seeing that. Like why is that? And I think ultimately it's sometimes people do not know basic communication. And that can be hard to believe. Just looking back on the past, 10, 20, even 30 years, right? A lot of ways we learned communication skills are no longer essentially there.
Right.
So it's totally normal for someone to be born in one city in the United States, then move to another one, then move to another one, and then they wind up in, let's say their 30s or 40s in, let's call it their last city, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the people that they're working with in the parish, they've been there their whole life. So there's all these sort of like micro signals, like microculture things that are kind of missed. For example, one of my favorite facts is, it's very poor behavior in California to honk at people. Like that can start, a lot of things, in the East Coast, it's how you say hello to your friends.
Oh.
And it's not something that you can readily find on Wikipedia. It's like those little things, like, and I know it's like, that's not a little thing. Someone just honked at me, Jose. It's like, well, from the perspective of someone that moved from the East Coast, it's like, I said hello and now everybody hates me. So learning the basic fundamentals of communication and adapting them to the particular cultural setting solves a lot. Like, in my experience, it solves 95% of situations. The other part is showing people that if we're really, really, really serious about ministry, and we're willing to learn these skills, like forgiveness is just part of the team dynamic. And the Bible does not shy away from that. You might be wondering, I don't really see a whole lot of organizational behavior in sacred scripture. The conversion of Saul. Saint Ananias, when he heard that, the Lord called him to basically heal Saul's blindness, right?
Right.
Saint Ananias' initial response was, do you know what evil things this man has done?
Oh, right.
That's what he said.
And God said, oh, no, I've never heard about that. I mean, it's kind of funny. He asked him, like, Lord, do you know?
Yeah, exactly. Of course he knows, right? And the Lord's response is essentially, he's going to be immensely helpful in the mission.
Yeah.
And he will suffer alongside you.
Yeah.
And this is like one of the interesting tidbits about working in ministry. Like, this concept of redemptive suffering actually does carry a lot of ministers through the difficulties. For like particularly redemptive suffering for the kingdom. You know, you talk to even a catechist, like a volunteer position, right? They work hard. Like they have a full-time job typically. And on top of that, they'll still dedicate 20, 30 hours a week.
Wow.
To faith formation of these students,
Yeah, that's true.
of their families.
A lot of time.
And it's one of the harder volunteer positions, you know? And it's like, wow, I'm doing this hard thing. I'm not sleeping as much, but I'm willing to do it for the Lord. I'm willing to do it because I see the Lord in these children and in these parents, right? So again, like, are there bad apples? Absolutely. You know, like just, I like to call it more like, is there like a really difficult dynamic, you know? Because then the dynamic's the problem. And then, okay, let's insert, you know, communication skills. Let's insert good leadership skills. Let's show them how these skills are biblical. You know, like the Blessed Mother's communication style is actually really helpful for de-escalating situations. She communicates her emotions very bravely, very clearly. She articulates how they're directly connected to the Lord, and that's just good practice. Even St. Joseph, actually, we can learn a lot about communication from him regarding ministry.
Didn't say anything, but because of other ways he communicated.
Yeah, like how he listens. It's very important. Even the one thing he says one word.
He said one word?
Yes. I love it. Matthew 1:25. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and he, Joseph, called his name Jesus.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're going to say one word, then that's a good word.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like it's powerful because if you look at how St. Joseph was, you know, how God's grace intervened in healing that dynamic, right? Where at first he thought one thing, and then his life got turned right side up, you know? Essentially, what turned things right side up, very key thing, was the angel of the Lord reminded Joseph who he was, who the Blessed Mother was, and who that baby in the womb was. And that's key for ministry, and that's key for basically anything. Where it's like, you know, do I remember who this person is? You know, and last thing I'll say, courage is really important when turning around a dynamic. Courage doesn't necessarily mean like, hey, we're going to talk about what happened on, you know, March 13th, 2017. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that. It doesn't have to be that head on. Courage could mean like, hey, can we all agree that maybe we don't like the flavor of the air?
Yeah, address it.
Let's address that. It doesn't feel right.
Right.
And we all value relationship, you know, otherwise why are we here? So let's try something, you know? And we might even just say, okay, you know, for some inexplicable reason, we might not like each other. That's okay. How about we just very intentionally try to like each other? And that's a conversation you can have in a parish that is actually very difficult to have in a secular environment. In a secular environment where your job is to, you know, increase, I don't know, the sales of widgets, you know? It's like, well, I don't know if we actually have to like each other.
Yeah, yeah. There's no, well, like accountability or no, there's, what do I want to say? I have it in my head, but I can't.
There's like a limit to there isn't, because in a Catholic parish,
we're at stake, I would say. Yes.
Yeah. Like there is this expectation that when the Lord says, right, hey, before you go to the temple and offer the sacrifice, you must be right with your brother.
Right.
That also includes your colleagues in the parish. You know, and that is very exciting, you know. Now, are we all human? Yes. And that said, and I keep on emphasizing this point because I think it's so meaningful to people, right? Is it's okay to struggle. You do not have to be a perfect family member. You do not have to be a perfect community member. Yes, there's boundaries, right? Like don't commit crimes, you know? You don't have to be perfect. We can struggle. And that actually creates greater confidence later in the sort of like relationships formed within that parish community.
Right. You know, I tend to think also, I get what you're saying too about things are handled in a certain way in the secular world. I feel they are handled differently in the parish. When there's an issue, we're supposed to try to go to the person first.
Yeah.
We're going, and then if that doesn't work, you try the next step and the next step and the next step. And then it says, I'm paraphrasing, brush your boots off and move on.
Yeah.
Like you have to try.
You have to try.
And I do think that it is, I do agree with you that in our world, we're not good at communicating these days. There's a lot of yelling going on. There's a lot of like, I'm right, you're wrong. I'm not going to budge. You know, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of like power struggles going on. And I do feel in the church, it's a little different thing, like in ministries and everything. Again, humans, people want their own way. They want, you know, but honestly, I agree with what you're saying is for the most part, everybody's like, well, we have this goal that it's not really about how I'm doing it, how you're doing it. It's the goal we need to do is get this task done for service of others or for the good of the parish. Yeah. So I do believe in that. I do think it's frustrating. I do like to communicate. I do think it's good to like, you know, talk about things, talk them through. I wasn't always good at that. I'm not saying I'm good at it now, but I'm better than I used to be, certainly. And if something doesn't sit right with a person, you should be able to say, can we have a talk? Because, you know, I would like to talk through this. Yeah. And then, but that doesn't mean they're going to respond well. Okay. So like you can go in very kind and very soft, very Blessed Mother-like, very Jesus-like, and say, you know, hey, can we talk about this? Because I'm not feeling good about this. Like maybe we could, you know, clear the air. Yeah. Okay. Well, some people respond to that and some people don't. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's good to say what you have to say. If you're met with resistance, I think it is good to set up some boundaries to not, you know, like to protect yourself, to protect your heart, to protect your soul, to not get sucked into negativity that's then going to hurt yourself in the parish, you know, because you're, you know, you don't know this person, you don't know their motive. You're trying to be peaceful and they're not responding. Yeah. So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that then you have to say, okay, well, I tried. And Lord, please take this. Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things I've been really working on the past few months is I was in the Adoration Chapel, which I get my best, you know, from Jesus. He talks directly to me. And like he'll say these things to me, these directions to me. And he's like, Lori, look, when you're struggling with somebody, look at me. Just look at me and I'm going to handle it. Mm-hmm. And I just heard a thing the other day from Bishop Barron, and he's basically saying in this talk I heard where he's like, the Lord sees all. Yeah. Let him do what he needs to do. It might not happen when you want it to happen, but let him handle things and people, including yourself. Let him handle things. Yeah. And you just, you know, don't fall into sin because of somebody else's reactions to you or actions to you.
Oh, I love that. And I want to piggyback off of that to give some people relief. If they're in that exact same situation where they tried what was reasonable or even above that, and they're like, you know, I just want to entrust it to the Lord because I don't know what else I can do.
Right. Now, wait, hold that thought because we got to go to a break. And that'll make people come back.
Yes, okay,
you have to
come
find
back.
Out. You can't know until you come back.
Cliffhanger.
So we'll be right back. What is happening at Fresh Catholic? Thanks for asking. Well, we have a weekly podcast with lots of topics and guests, and Fresh Catholic Daily, the daily Mass readings. Listen on all platforms and watch on YouTube. I also do short videos every day on Instagram and Facebook at Fresh Catholic. Like, share, subscribe, rate, and review. These are such simple ways to help us out. The other ways you can support our mission of drawing people to the faith or back to the faith are by becoming a Patreon or sponsor. Also simple, but so needed. Our website, freshcatholic.com, has an online store with merchandise, a blog, comics, and Fresh Catholic courses with educator Charles Merritt, with the Hail Mary, the Our Father, the Virtues, the Ascension, the Magi, the Visitation, the Ten Commandments, Sacraments and Grace, Sin, Advent, Angels, Lent, Typology, and even some Bible study courses. Wow, that's a lot. Please share all of this with everyone you know and join the Fresh Catholic family. And remember, be focused, be faithful, and be fresh. And we're back. Okay, geez, I was on the edge of my seat. Okay, quick, get through that commercial. Okay, yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I had to interrupt you.
No, it's totally fine. Like, so for those folks who are, I really tried my best. I'm a gentle soul. I'm not in this because I like to fight, sort of thing. And, it just didn't pan out well. Like, Lord, what do I do, right? There is a really encouraging option, and that's have even deeper relationships with the people that are receptive within your staff team. Like the answer is actually, more love in those who are receiving it. And there's a reason for that, or at least two that I can name right now. The first is our emotions really affect basically everyone in the room, So if, you're deepening like even a great relationship, you're taking a great work relationship to even better heights of love and charity, right? Of hope and of faith and etc. That actually affects the other people within the parish just by it existing, So that's wonderful news, because it's like, oh, what can I do? Well, have an even better time with, these two people that you really resonate with.
Right.
So that's one thing. And the second thing is, our Lord says it so plainly, love God with your heart, soul, and mind. Love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, right? Love your neighbor as yourself, So when you're having this dynamic, a positive dynamic with someone, you're loving your neighbor as yourself, it just like, it lives out the theology really beautifully. So again, if you're like banging your head against the wall, it's like, what do I do? This person is not receptive. It's like, then invest your love in the people who are. And then that affects the, the sort of like the side conversations that you're not part of. It's like, oh, wow, Lori was just so nice. I told her about, my niece's, confirmation, and, Lori brought something to help, augment her dress some way. And, I was just really surprised because, she's so attentive, right? Like, those are the sort of conversations you want in a parish, right? And then you as well regarding your friends. It's like, oh, wow, Jane, she's so amazing. She brought donuts for everybody, even though she didn't have to. Like, she's just such a generous woman, right? And the more people talk about each other that way, even though it's not directly with the person who's quote unquote bad apple, right? It does affect.
Right.
And it's life-giving.
Right.
Yeah. And it's also safe. It's not a risk to love someone more with whom you have a great relationship with.
Right. Well, and I do think, I would say that one of the concerns about, when you're in a staff or in a ministry or in a parish, and there are some negative things, Satan loves nothing more than to stir the pot and to cause problems and to cause doubts and to cause animosity in between people. He doesn't want everybody to be happy and working things out. So I do think it's really good to not let it pull the whole ship down if somebody's having a struggle. Maybe they're in a, like we're joking, not joking, but maybe it was something initially, or maybe it's something where there's a problem that right now isn't going to work out, but maybe it will later. Maybe it won't work out later. But if you let that one thing pull everything under, then that's really like the worst case scenario.
It is.
So you're right. It's like, even, out in the world, like I don't want to say like in the parish or in the staff I'm involved in, but I've had past experiences where people who have their mind set up about me have made a decision, and then it affects me, and then I'm not acting like my normal self.
Exactly.
I'm acting like this crazy lunatic person. And I'm thinking, wait a second, who is that person?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm listening to the chatter in my brain telling me, oh, you're a horrible person, you're this and that. And so then it kind of does morph you into somebody you're not.
And it's false.
Yeah.
The chatter is false.
Yeah. So if you can say, okay, like I've had to make a decision. I actually didn't make this decision. I was in therapy, and my therapist said, Lori, there's certain people that don't like you. So you have to just get it and not agree with it, but just say, okay, they don't like me. I'm not going to change their mind.
It's like the acceptance.
And she said, quit focusing on it. You're putting so much effort and focus on it that you're not focusing on the positives that you have going on in your life. So they just leave them be and go, like you just said, focus on the people that love you, or focus on the things you can do that are positive for other people. Because I do love that about my life. Like, one of my favorite things about life is, what can I do for somebody else? I like to do service for other people. That's like my love language to other people. It's like when my kids were being raised, I loved to cook for them and clean for them, and they appreciated it and they loved me. And that was what they, like they would be so grateful and had such gratitude for me. And so I loved like doing that for them. I love, taking care of Simon. He's a lot of work. No, just kidding. No,
we love you, Simon.
No, I'm just kidding. I love doing that. That's why I like to be a wife, because I like to take care of my husband.
Wow.
That's like a thing. And so I think, when somebody, whether in your family, in your work, in your world, is just constantly bringing negativity to your world, my belief is I pray for them.
Yeah.
I ask the Lord, like, they must have something really sad and dreadful going on. I don't believe people just have these ways without there being a reason.
Exactly.
There's always an origin story. Even Disney villains have an origin story,
I think Cruella had a movie.
She did. It was great. You should watch it. It was amazing. It's like, because that's true. People have an origin story, and some people can come through that and some people can't. And some people don't know how to handle situations or people.
Exactly. And that's the thing, right? Where a lot of the question of like, what is expected of me, right? Is like, you have a measure of love you can give. Give what you can. That's so important. Within that context, right, of, gosh, what do I appreciate? I want to highlight something, that humanizing someone just goes such a long way. And by the humanization is just like hearing about their personality. Like, do they like chocolate chip cookies, or like, coconut or whatever? I'll give you an example. I was working with someone that like, she herself considered like, wow, why am I not fitting in with the rest of the group? And like, she said something that I wished everyone in the parish had heard, that would just totally melt everyone's heart. At least like to kick off like a better dynamic, right? And we were discussing hobbies and just what she actually enjoyed about her position. And it's like, so what do you love about your day? She said, you know what? I love hearing over here the sound of children playing. It's like, you could think a lot of things about someone. However, if you hear that they're the type of person that loves to have the sound of happy, joyful children playing in the background as she's getting work done, like, there's got to be some bridge there.
Yeah.
And it's okay to get to know each other more. And again, like, you might be looking at me like I'm crazy, like, but you don't understand. Right now, I don't even have the opening to get to know this person.
Yeah.
It's like, we can pray for opportunities. The Lord might open them up. We never know when they might come. That's it. Now that you know that, wow, them being humanized in my eyes and me being humanized in their eyes is a potential solution,
Right.
your brain is going to start scanning for those opportunities, and you might just win the lottery.
Yes.
Yeah, let's always look for those opportunities. One of the things I want to highlight
Well, and
is
everybody has something good about them.
everybody
does.
Everybody
Honestly.
has an opportunity for that relationship with
I
God.
have, yeah. I mean, I didn't personally know Hitler, so I can't say about him or Osama bin Laden. Those are the two, most challenging people in history. But so I'm not going to, we'll put them off to the side. But I would imagine, like in my mind, even people I struggle with, I can find something positive to say about them.
Exactly.
I think everybody has something.
Everybody has
But
something.
again, it's like you don't know their origin story. You don't know why they might be struggling or having a personality issue or something. You don't know what people are going through. You don't know what's going on in people's lives. And some people don't even want to share that. And it's festering in them.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can break through that and you can help them. Or like, I appreciate what you just said about if you see an opportunity or find an opportunity, that is God like giving you a nudge, and like trying to get you to do it. They might slam the door in your face, but you need to like try.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And then if you try and you can back off a little. You don't have to keep. That's why my therapist was saying, because that's what I was doing. I was trying, and she's like, stop. Just be you. Go do you. Be your normal you. And if they gravitate to you, great. If they don't, you're still just being you, which I thought was great advice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like instead of me being the other person I was turning into, she said, Lori, just be you. Go be you. And then maybe they'll come and maybe they won't. And so I think that's really smart advice. Again, in your family life, in your work life. But I do think we really do have a different sense being a staff of a church.
Yeah.
I mean, I do really think that there is just a different feeling. I've worked in other jobs and then I've worked in a church. So I do think, there are things that I wish I didn't know or knew about, but it's just, I can handle it. I'm a grown up.
Yeah.
But Simon was right. It does make me sad sometimes because, I don't want people to be at odds and I don't want people to be struggling with each other because I do want everybody to kind of be focused on the end goal.
The end goal. Exactly. And, I love that we're highlighting this contrast, right, between other positions and careers versus working in service of the church. That maybe this is a good time to share with you like one of my favorite things.
Tell me.
Okay. And it's gonna surprise the audience, right? Because I'm admitting weakness in a sense, right? I love that often that when needed, people will have mercy on me, and that's unusual,
right?
I remember I was talking with a very respected priest. We'll put it that way. And I, messed up regarding marketing, And I said, hey, we're going to have to slide the series to another month. Really sorry about that. I'm going to try to make it, square by offering this additional work. And he could have totally said, oh, sorry, we have a full calendar, let's touch back, 3 years from now, right? Basically never. He responded very fast. And he said, totally understandable, this works. Let's make sure to book the dates. Like that level of mercy.
Right.
And I think, we as humans, we're so hungry for reasonable things. We're starving for them, like mercy, being in a workplace where people care to understand you and where you care to understand others, dedication for an eternal mission, like the thriving of families, the thriving of the kingdom, right? Just in particular, mercy is one of the reasons I love the work that I do. It's like, wow. And that also means I can show mercy on others.
Right.
So if you get nothing from this, right, the flaws that come out in the ministry dynamic are actually oftentimes one of the things that at least I'm most grateful for. I don't have to be perfect. And it doesn't mean that I abuse that. I'm still an adult and I have responsibilities. It's just I don't have to be perfect, and that lets me have a more life-giving life.
Right. One thing I wanted to talk to kind of shift a little, not really, but you said something in the beginning, and I want to circle back about it because I think it's a really important thing to bring up to my listeners. So you were talking about like young, well, maybe not young people, any people who are looking for something of purpose in their life. And I feel like there's so many people that don't have a thing that they really want to throw their life into. And, you know, I hate to always blame stuff on COVID and everything, but I do feel like things really shifted at that moment.
They did.
And I think people became, you know, where they were at home all the time. They didn't care about what other people were doing. It really did shift so much. And I think there's probably other things involved, but I can't really identify them at this moment. But I do know that when a person feels worthwhile and needed and can do something for someone else, it makes their problems or their insecurities or anything negative, I would say, disappear. Or at least like
a huge factor.
Yeah, it diminishes it a lot, because then they're putting somebody else's thing for. That's why when people become parents and they're very self-absorbed, honestly, before you have children, you're just kind of like, you're doing your own thing, and you're used to not having to be accountable to somebody else. And it's like, before you get married, before you have children, you're leading a whole different life. And then you get married and you have another person that you're responsible to and for, you know, and then you have these children. And you need to be...
And children are life or death responsible.
Absolutely.
Like, you need to be on the ball.
But finally, it's a thing of like, oh, I have to put this person's needs before mine. Okay, so that is I believe one reason God created marriage and family is so that we're not always thinking about ourselves, we're thinking about somebody else. But I think when kids today, I've noticed this, like, this isn't something new. This is something I've always noticed. When you have children, like whether they're your children or other people's children, when they're acting up and you'll say to them, can you help me? I need help. Can you come help me? Oh, the little kids love to help. What can I do?
What can I do?
They feel needed. They feel necessary. So then you put them to work. Oh, they love it. Now, maybe not teenagers. Maybe when you say to teenagers, you know, I need your help. Can you rake the leaves? And they go, oh my good heavens. You know, it's like, but if you give a child a task, whether he's a teenager, you know, start them when they're little, because then they want to help mommy and daddy.
They want to help.
They like it. They like to work alongside of mommy and daddy. They want to work alongside grandma and grandpa. They want to do things with you.
They want to do things.
They want you to feel capable. And this is how we create capable humans. And then when they're a teenager, if you say to a teenager, do you want to work for me? No, the answer is going to be no. But if you say, let's do this together, this would be great. I'll bet you, and I've heard this years later, a person will say, when my dad asked me to build a shed, at first I thought that was the worst thing in the world, but we got to spend great time together. You know, this is how, and then that, I believe, then you're teaching them when they go out in the world. Like, I used to do volunteer work all the time when I was a kid. That was a thing. I wasn't a religious kid. That wasn't due to religion. It's just my dad was a very loving, kind, giving. He was a scout leader. So he was very involved in service. My mom was raised by a scout executive. So they were very service related. And so I would go do a lot of volunteer work as a child. And consequently, I had my kids doing volunteer.
That's wonderful.
So you become, like, it's not always about you. It's about how can I serve someone else?
I think, like, sort of when we're talking about children and teens and, you know, adults, etc., I think one of the most challenging words in Scripture is we and us. Really challenging. I'll give you an example.
You mean instead of me and I?
Instead of like me and you, it's us. It's a very healing word, actually.
Right.
Give you an example.
It's uniting. It's uniting.
Yeah.
Uniting people.
Oh, absolutely. Like
unifying.
So Saint Joseph in the Gospel of Matthew, Matthew quotes Isaiah to illustrate sort of the justification of why our Lord had to be named a certain name, you know, and why certain things have to happen. And the quotation in Isaiah was like, "And behold, a virgin shall be with child and bring forth her firstborn son, and they shall call him Emmanuel," which being interpreted is God with us. Okay. Isaiah doesn't actually say that exactly. Isaiah doesn't say they will call his name Emmanuel. Isaiah says she will call his name Emmanuel. Now, you might be wondering, Jose, what is the difference between she and they? You know, in a practical sense, this child is still going to be called Emmanuel, God with us. Well, if you're Saint Joseph and you know Isaiah like the back of your hand, and you know that, you know, this woman is pregnant with child, and you're assuming like good things about that, it's not clear whether you should be in the picture.
Right.
Because it's she will name him. However, the angel of the Lord appeared to him, and the angel literally says, "You shall call his name such and such," right?
Right.
Okay? So the fullness of the interpretation is that she from Isaiah is not an exclusive she. That the actual full interpretation is they. So it's not only that Saint Joseph got this opportunity to love Jesus and the Blessed Mother, is that Joseph got this opportunity to also receive love.
Right.
And we see that often in Scripture, like so much it's embarrassing we don't talk about it. The law of love. Love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. Like, you can interpret it as like, love your neighbor as if they were you and forget yourself. Another way to interpret it is, you have love for your neighbor, and that is proportional to the love you have for you.
Right.
And like, you know, it's like you and I make up the we. That's important. If we, as, you know, people in ministry, say, you know, let's say we see someone with a broken heart praying at the chapel, okay? And we totally believe that giving that person understanding, empathy, maybe even like a touch on the shoulder and a warm cup of something like tea or coffee is a good thing. It does not stand to believe that we should not be treated that way as well.
Right.
So I think like we, within the context of Scripture, meaning you, me, God, all of us together matter, that's very controversial, yet very healing.
Yeah, I do think, you know, encouraging people to seek out ministries. You know, every church has ministries, as far as I know. Every church needs people to volunteer. I think it is really important. It helps you, you know, as a person, as a couple, as a family. It's just good to do for others. To teach your children that it's not all about them all the time. It does make, I mean, I just think that's what makes it all run beautifully, is when it's all hands on deck.
It's all hands on deck.
Yeah, it's not like one group does everything and then you're, you know.
Exactly.
I mean, that's how the church runs, is by people. But it is really good for people, because there are people out there that are lost and they just don't, you know, I don't want to say they don't have anything to live for, but sometimes that is true.
Yeah, like love is so essential, in the sense that what you're saying is like, people need to know that they can love.
Yeah.
Right? And also it's important that people know that they can be loved.
Yes.
It's the two-way, and I'm always floored by Christ's example going up to Calvary. Like, instead of adding weights to the cross, he added Simon of Cyrene.
Right.
And Simon, in a sense, was invited to, like, perhaps the most important ministry ever.
Yeah.
Like,
He was reluctant, but he
was
did it.
reluctant, and he did it. And at the same time, the Lord, like, received him.
Right.
Saint Veronica
Was my patron saint.
Oh, is she? Okay, perfect. Like, she gave to the Lord, he received it. And sometimes we get to be Saint Veronica, sometimes we get to be our Lord.
Right.
And it's important that in the course of our lives that we eagerly accept being either or.
Yeah.
Sometimes we receive, sometimes we give. The key is that within the context of the ministerial relationship, we're committing to being that two-way. You matter, I matter, therefore we matter.
And on that, we're going to have to end the podcast. That was a perfect spot. Because we're at our time limit.
Oh my goodness, okay.
Look at us. We did a full hour off the cuff.
That's amazing. So, like, can I get, like, one more word in? Like,
One more word.
Okay, I love...
Maybe a couple more words. But
Okay. I love supporting teams, whether it's parish staff, senior volunteers, pastoral council, finance council, etc. Whether you have a great dynamic, a funny dynamic, everything in between, reach out to me. I'll give Lori my email to put in
the show notes.
In the show notes, and reach out. I'm always happy to have a conversation.
Excellent. He's the guy. He's the guy to go to. Okay, well, thank you for coming today. I really enjoyed having you, and I'll have you back.
Amen. I'm glad.
Amen. Okay. Thanks for coming today. Thank you for coming today. Thank you. Love you. Bye. Thank you for joining me today. Now go out and be a bright light in someone's life. And remember, be focused, be faithful, and be fresh. Fresh Catholic is produced, edited, and recorded in Ventura, California.